How not to procrastinate? Don't. I know, I'm sorry, that's not what you were wanting to hear when you clicked on the title of this video, and I do have some real advice, but in saying that, I think that that is real advice, and I think there is a semblance of truth in that when it comes to preventing distraction and procrastination. There is no magic trick. And people who get things done and accomplished do so because they push through, they oftentimes force themselves to work, and it's similar to when we're looking for inspiration. I think more often than not what we need to do is just power through, and we need to set aside the idea that there's this magical spark that will conjure up inspiration and streamline our thoughts into forgetting about the rest of the world. Not to say you can't have moments of that, but I don't think those moments make up enough time to get things done. And that's not to say there aren't reasons people find it difficult to concentrate for long periods of time, but a lot of us, I think, give in too easily to the procrastination. In saying that, I do have some genuine pieces of advice to help you better concentrate and get your work done, but I'd like you to keep that in the back of your mind throughout this, that these are not magical tips and they take active participation on your part to make them work. And also, that's not to say I am not guilty of any of this as well. I procrastinate like everybody else, and have to do a lot of self-motivation, and these are the ways I've found to help me do that. So first up, I think one of the things you can do to help yourself concentrate and stop procrastinating is to plan your time. I think if you allot specific time to specific tasks and section off time so that you dedicate half an hour or 2 hours to something before your day begins, you will find it easier to concentrate on those tasks if it's not just an endless thing that you have to do all day or all week. I think if you say, I'm doing this until this bit of the day, it will help you better focus on that task, if that makes sense. So you could break your day into 8-hourly slots, whatever works for you. It might take a bit of practice, but breaking your day into time slots and your tasks into time slots will help you focus on them, because you know you only have to do it for that specific amount of time. And there might be a task that is a whole day task, so say you just need to spend the whole day essay writing. In that case, I would say try and break down what you have to do in that essay into slots, or just simply put breaks in between your hours. So dedicate an hour to essay writing, take 15 minutes off. Dedicate an hour to essay writing, take 15 minutes off. Just so you are looking at your day and your tasks as time blocks. I think that really helps. And that also goes along with my second piece of advice, which is to take breaks. Now, I say this when I talk about time management, when I talk about organisation, when I talk about relaxing and mental health when it comes to studies. It is really important to give your brain time to relax, to take time off, and if you need to escape from your desk, to do so. Now, I have a whole video on de-stressing whilst you're studying, which goes into greater detail, but I think, you know, getting up, walking around, going and having your lunch, or chatting to a friend on the phone, or simply just, you know, lying down for 15 minutes and forgetting about the rest of the world are all things that are as important to the studying and working process as the work itself. That's not to say you should go absolutely wild and consider hours and hours of your day that you've spent relaxing studying time, but I do think being sensible, working in breaks and splitting up your tasks and taking time between them is important. Your brain will function better if you take that piece of advice, and it will hopefully give you new energy to go back to your tasks with. I would also say prioritising is really important when it comes to concentration and preventing procrastination. Don't do all the silly little tasks that aren't as important first. That equally is procrastination. If you have one big task that has a deadline that is really important, prioritise and get to that first. Don't put things off. I myself am the worst for this. This is definitely one of my worst things, is putting off bigger tasks, and particularly putting off finishing tasks. I love starting things, I hate finishing them. That is not helpful though, and completing the most important tasks first is really, really important when it comes to preventing procrastination. If you do find it difficult to concentrate, however, one of the things I find helpful, particularly if there's other things going on in the building or the room I'm in that might distract me, is to listen to classical music. Now, I am no classical music connoisseur. I couldn't tell you the difference between Debussy and Mozart, but I do find that there are loads of playlists on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube that you can just type in study music, classical music and listen to. And particularly because there's no words in classical music, I just find it, you know, cuts out the rest of the world from my periphery and focuses my mind on what's in front of me. Another thing you could do is listen to movie soundtracks that don't have words in them. I always like the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit soundtracks. I think I wrote most of my undergraduate dissertation whilst listening to the Lord of the Rings soundtracks. I would also suggest, if you're finding it difficult to concentrate, perhaps because you've just spent too much time in one space, or you have access to different things in the space you're in, or there's people around you or noises or whatever, is to go somewhere else, you know. Try new spaces. I find that working in my flat works for me sometimes, but other times I need to get out of my flat. My flat has too many potential distractions in it for me, so I need to go to the library or even just a coffee shop. Somewhere where I can't film a YouTube video and distract myself from my studying. That kind of thing. The library for me is always the best place. It's a quiet place. I find the energy of other people studying around me really helpful. I also feel it puts a little bit of pressure on me to get my studying done. I don't want people looking over my laptop and seeing I'm on YouTube. I want to be studying, so I think that actually really helps me. But I do think coffee shops are often quite helpful as well. I can get myself a coffee and a wee cake and sit there for a couple of hours. Especially if I don't need the internet, I won't log on to the internet or Wi-Fi in the coffee shop, and I'll just type and read. And that is incredibly helpful. But it might take me a little bit longer to get to the library than it would to just stay in my flat, but sometimes that time is completely made up by how much better I concentrate in a space like a library. And if you do find that one of your problems is being distracted by apps on your phone or on your computer or YouTube or the internet, there are tons of apps out there which try to prevent you from using more apps on your phone. So these apps will either lock your internet or computer or certain websites that you've chosen from you for a certain amount of time. You can lock up things like Facebook for an hour so you can't go on it, or you can lock up the apps on your phone so you can't use them for an hour. Or they will reward you for not using them. So they might be apps on your phone that every time you come out of that app and go into another app on your phone, you start from the beginning again. So you might want to say to yourself, I want to do an hour of uninterrupted studying. So you open this app on your phone, and then you can't come off it, or that will interrupt your hour and you'll have lost that solid hour studying. And why not use technology to counteract the distraction of technology? I think that really can help and work. And lastly, I think you should bear in mind that any work is work. So perhaps you wanted to write 10,000 words of your book today, but you only managed 5,000, something like that. Don't kick yourself. Pat yourself on the back for getting something done. It might have been harder because you weren't in the right head frame that day and you really had to force yourself to sit down at the computer and type. But do it. Any work is better than no work. You might have written 10,000 words of your book or your essay and they'd be absolute rubbish, or at least half of it's rubbish that you won't include in the final thing. But you got words down, and getting words down is better than staring at a blank space waiting for perfection. Don't wait for perfection, do whatever you can and edit later. That is way better than blank space. Always. Because I do think one of the reasons some of us procrastinate is because what we are creating or writing isn't exactly what we want it to be, and it's not perfect, and we want everything we do to be perfect, so if it's not perfect there's no point. And I completely disagree with that. But those are all of my tips for helping you concentrate and prevent procrastination in the future. Hopefully they were helpful. Like I said, there's no magic trick. I wish there was, but I do think all of these things can definitely help you, and I definitely think it's worth seeking out things that help you. Don't worry, we all procrastinate. You know, I'm pretty sure at least 99% of us procrastinate and find it difficult to concentrate sometimes, so If that's you, then don't worry, you're not alone, but it's definitely something that we can address if we put our minds to it. If you enjoy my study videos, then there's a form, a Google form in the description box down below that you can use to help me pick which study videos to do next, both in a poll and also through submissions. Do however check out my study videos playlist before suggesting any videos though, because it might already exist. I've had a few requests for time management videos which I have already done a video on and my advice hasn't changed. So if you're interested in that, I will link that as well. But I would love to hear if you have any useful tips for helping you concentrate or preventing procrastination. I'm always looking for more helpful advice, and I do hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time guys, happy studying, working and reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye!